At number 15, we have the Unfinished Swan, and honestly, this game feels like stepping inside a dream. Imagine starting in a world that's completely white. Nothing exists until you start throwing splashes of paint around. Each drop lands, and suddenly, shapes emerge. A wall here, a tree there, staircases appearing out of nowhere. It's like watching a blank canvas slowly transform into a living storybook. And that's the beauty of it. It's not just about exploring a strange world, it's about creating it as you go. There's this childlike wonder, mixed with a kind of sadness too, because the story underneath is about loss and imagination, about a boy chasing a swan that leapt from his mother's unfinished painting. It feels deeply personal, like art that speaks directly to your heart. The Unfinished Swan isn't about action or puzzles. It's about the feeling of discovery, about being small in a world that reveals itself one brushstroke at a time. Playing it is like walking through a moving painting that keeps surprising you, and it stays with you long after you put the controller down. Coming in at number 14 is Eastshade. If you've ever just wanted to escape somewhere peaceful, somewhere where the only goal is to take in beauty, this game is exactly that. You play as a traveling painter, wandering across rolling hills, through sleepy villages, past wide rivers and snowy mountains. And instead of fighting or surviving, you're just painting. You pick a view, set up your canvas, and turn it into a piece of art. What makes Eastshade so special is the atmosphere. It feels meditative, almost therapeutic. The world is gorgeous, but it's not just about looking at it. It's about slowing down and really noticing the little details, like how the light hits the water or how trees sway in the wind. It reminds you of what it means to see the world with an artist's eye. It's not stressful, it's not loud, it's calming, like a quiet Sunday afternoon where time slows down. This is art not just because it looks beautiful, but because it makes you create beauty inside it. It's a gentle reminder that games can be soft, thoughtful, and still unforgettable. At number 13, we've got Chicory, A Colorful Tale, and this one hits differently. On the surface, it looks playful and charming. You literally use a magical paintbrush to bring color back to a drained, black and white world. You doodle on trees, splash paint across paths, even decorate the walls if you feel like it. It feels like a child's coloring book come alive. But underneath that cheerful surface, there's so much heart. The game talks about things a lot of us have felt: creativity, self-doubt, the pressure of living up to expectations, even burnout. It makes you reflect on those moments where you didn't feel good enough at something you loved, and then slowly reminds you that art and life doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. What makes Chicory feel like art isn't only the painting mechanic, it's how the game itself is a conversation about what it means to create. It's silly and joyful one moment, emotional and vulnerable the next. And by the end, you don't just see the world filled with color again. You feel like you've painted a little piece of yourself into it too. At number 12, we step into something very different: Blasphemous. Where most games that feel like art are soft, poetic, and comforting, Blasphemous is the opposite. It's heavy, it's brutal, and it's absolutely drenched in imagery that looks like it came out of a painting from the Spanish Inquisition. Every corner of this world feels carved out of Gothic religious art. Cathedrals dripping with gold, tortured statues frozen in agony, and monstrous enemies that look like living sculptures of sin and punishment. The pixel art here isn't cute or nostalgic, it's disturbing and gorgeous at the same time. The animations are so detailed that sometimes you just stop and stare, even when what you're staring at is horrifying. The game makes suffering look like sacred artwork, and that's where its power lies. You're not just fighting through a difficult platformer, you're walking through a moving painting about guilt, faith, and sacrifice. It's grotesque, but also unforgettable. Blasphemous shows that art in games doesn't always have to soothe. It can shock, unsettle, and still leave you in awe. Now, number 11. Paper Beast is an VR experience. This one feels like stepping into an interactive dream. Imagine an alien desert filled with creatures made entirely out of folded paper, delicate, origami-like animals that actually move, breathe, and react to you. At first, you don't understand this world at all. There are no instructions, no dialogue, just you and these strange living sculptures, trying to figure each other out. What makes Paper Beast special is how alive it feels. The way the creatures stumble, stretch, and interact is so strangely emotional, like you're watching life itself being discovered in front of you. Sometimes you'll guide them, sometimes you'll just sit and watch as they shape their world. And slowly, it starts to feel less like a game and more like a poem you can touch. It's surreal, fragile, and hauntingly beautiful. By the time you're done, it doesn't feel like you played a game. It feels like you visited another universe, one made entirely of folded paper and quiet emotion. It's art in its purest form, delicate, mysterious, and deeply moving. And at number 10, we have Nine Souls. If Blasphemous was a painting of hell, Nine Souls is like flipping to a vivid, modern mural, one that blends ancient Taoist mythology with sharp cyberpunk style. The combat here is fast, brutal, and almost dance-like, but what really stands out is how every single frame looks like concept art from a massive animated film. Neon colors clash with mythic architecture, and every environment feels alive with detail. This is one of those games where you could pause at any moment, take a screenshot, and hang it on your wall. That's how visually striking it is. But it's not just style, It's a world that mixes tradition and future, spiritual myth and modern rebellion. It's fierce and stylish, but also thoughtful, almost like an illustrated graphic novel brought to life. What makes it art is that fusion, the way it dares to combine things that shouldn't fit together, but somehow they do. Playing Nine Souls feels like stepping into a piece of visual storytelling that's both brutal and beautiful at the same time. At number 9 we have Tunic, and at first glance, it looks so simple, a tiny fox with a sword, exploring a bright, diorama-like world. But don't let the cuteness fool you. Tunic is one of those games that hides secrets under every single corner. The grass looks soft enough to touch, the buildings look like toy models, and you feel like you're stepping into a storybook. But then you start noticing things. Strange glyphs you can't read, mysterious passages you didn't realize were there, a manual written in a language you don't understand, and slowly, you piece together its meaning. That's when it clicks. Tunic isn't just about exploring a cute world. It's about mystery, curiosity, and the joy of discovery. It feels like being a kid again, leafing through a game manual you barely understand, slowly unlocking secrets one by one. It's art not because of how it looks, but because of how it makes you feel, like you're uncovering something ancient and magical, hidden beneath a beautiful surface. Number 8 takes us in a completely different direction, Limbo. This game is stripped down to the absolute essentials: black, white, and shadow. No color, no detailed faces, no dialogue. And yet, it's terrifyingly beautiful. You play as a small boy walking through a world that feels like a nightmare. Forests full of giant spiders, crumbling machinery, silent threats everywhere. What makes Limbo so powerful is the silence. There's almost no music, just the sound of footsteps, of wind, of sudden shocks that make your heart stop. Every death is brutal, but also strangely poetic, as if you're trapped in a sketch someone drew in the middle of the night. It's the kind of game that proves you don't need fancy visuals to be art. Minimalism is the art here. Every frame could be a charcoal drawing, dark, smudged, and unforgettable. Playing Limbo feels like walking through someone's most haunting memory, and that emotional weight lingers long after you're done. And at number 7, we have Gorogoa. This one is unlike anything else. It's a puzzle game, but really, it feels like flipping through a book of hand-drawn illustrations that you can touch and rearrange. Each panel is like a painting, and the magic comes from how they connect. You slide one drawing over another, line up details, and suddenly the two become one new scene. It's hard to explain without seeing it, but the feeling is pure wonder. Imagine looking at a picture of a bowl of fruit, then realizing if you place it over a starry sky, it becomes a planet in orbit. It's that kind of creativity, simple but mind-blowing. Gorogoa is quiet, thoughtful, and endlessly inventive. It feels less like you're playing a game and more like you're inside an interactive gallery where every picture hides a secret connection. It's the kind of art that doesn't just look beautiful, it makes you think about beauty in a completely new way. At number 6, we have Monument Valley. Imagine stepping into a pastel dream where the world itself is impossible. Staircases loop back into themselves, bridges twist upside down, towers stretch into the sky, and then fold in ways that shouldn't exist. It's like an M.C. Escher drawing, but you can actually walk through it. You guide a silent princess across these shifting landscapes, and the puzzles aren't just challenges, they're illusions. You rotate the camera, and suddenly what seemed like empty space becomes a path. You twist a tower, and what was unreachable just seconds ago now connects perfectly. Every single level feels like a framed piece of digital art, something you could print and hang on your wall. But more than that, Monument Valley feels meditative. The pastel colors, the soft music, the way everything moves with elegance, it's calm, almost spiritual. Playing it is like holding a living painting in your hands, one that surprises you with its beauty again and again. At number 5, we step into what remains of Edith Finch. This isn't just a game, it's a collection of stories stitched together into one haunting, unforgettable experience. You play as Edith, returning to her family home, wandering through its creaky hallways and dusty rooms. But each room tells a story, and each story is told in a completely different style. One moment, you're a child imagining yourself as a sea monster. The next, you're working a dull factory job while escaping into the fantasy of being a king. Another moment, you're reading a comic book that suddenly bursts into bright, pulpy colors. Every story has its own art direction, its own way of showing you what that person's life was like, and each one ends the same, with loss. It's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time, like flipping through a book of illustrated memories, where every page feels alive and unique. What remains of Edith Finch is art not just because of how it looks, but because of how it tells its story, through creativity, through empathy, through showing us that even the smallest lives can feel like entire worlds. And at number 4, we have Firewatch. You're not a hero, not an explorer, you're just a man sitting in a lookout tower in the Wyoming wilderness, watching for fires. But what makes Firewatch feel like art is the way its world looks and breathes. The forests stretch out endlessly, painted in warm colors that shift with the time of day. Sunsets drench the mountains in orange, nights fill the valleys with deep purples, and mornings bring soft golden light through the trees. As you explore, you talk over the radio with Delilah, another lookout. You never meet her in person, but the way your relationship grows, mixed with the ever-changing scenery, makes everything feel deeply human. The art style is bold and painterly, but it's the atmosphere, the silence of the woods, the crackling of the radio, the distant echoes, that makes it unforgettable. Firewatch is about loneliness, connection, and the passage of time, but it tells that story through its visuals as much as its dialogue. Every horizon feels like a painting, every sunset feels like a memory. It's one of those rare games where you don't just see the art, you live inside it. At number 3, we step into Planet of Lana. From the very first moment, it feels like every frame could be a painting. Vast meadows glowing with sunlight, shadowy forests filled with mystery, alien skies painted in colors you've never seen before. You're a young girl, accompanied by a small, loyal creature, and together you journey through a world that feels equal parts familiar and otherworldly. What makes this game so powerful is the emotional bond at its core. You're not just solving puzzles or escaping danger, you're protecting something precious, and that love is what carries you forward. The art style is delicate, almost like a Studio Ghibli film brought to life, and the music swells in ways that make simple moments feel epic. Planet of Lana feels like an illustrated storybook that breathes. It's serene one moment and breathtakingly cinematic the next. And when you stop and take in the view, it doesn't feel like you're looking at a video game. It feels like you're standing inside a masterpiece that just happens to move. At number 2, we dive deep, literally, into ABZÜ. Imagine gliding beneath the ocean's surface, surrounded by schools of fish that move like living brushstrokes. The deeper you go, the more the sea reveals itself. Ancient ruins, glowing caverns, vast chambers filled with light. There are no enemies, no fights, no rush, only the rhythm of the water and the wonder of discovery. ABZÜ is art in motion. The way colors shift with the depth of the ocean, the way creatures dance around you, the way the music flows seamlessly with your movements, it all comes together like a moving watercolor painting. Sometimes you just stop swimming, just to watch thousands of fish swirl around you in perfect harmony, like you're part of a living canvas. This is one of those rare games that doesn't ask you to win or survive. It simply asks you to feel awe, calm, and connection with the world around you. And that's why ABZÜ is so much more than a game. It's an underwater meditation made of pure beauty. And finally, at number 1, we have Gris. If there is any game that proves video games can be art, it's this one. Gris isn't about combat, or puzzles, or even winning. It's about emotion. It's the story of a young woman's journey through grief, told without a single word. Instead, the game speaks through color, music, and movement. You begin in a broken world of black and white. Slowly, as you progress, colors return. First blue, then green, then red, each one tied to a stage of healing. The animations are hand-painted, delicate, and fluid, like watercolors spilling across the screen. The soundtrack rises and falls with your emotions, making every step feel like part of a symphony. What makes Gris so unforgettable is how it captures something we've all felt: loss, sadness, hope, and turns it into something beautiful. It doesn't just tell you a story, it shows you how grief can shatter you, and how beauty can put you back together piece by piece. Gris is not just a game. It's an emotional canvas, a living painting, a quiet masterpiece that leaves you in silence when it ends, because words can't capture what it made you feel.